Hello again and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to do a video talking about how I manage my daily arachnoiditis symptoms. I believe I've been suffering from arachnoiditis triggered by a ladder fall over 7 years ago. The ladder fall triggered both a spinal CSF leak and arachnoiditis, and I've been having to manage the symptoms ever since. The condition tends to come in flares with relapses and remittance, and I'm thankful to say I have gone over a year now without going through a full-on flare or relapse, and my symptoms have remained in quite a stable place, which I'm really pleased about. So I haven't needed any more IV steroids since January, February 2021, and I'm on a management dose of 5 milligrams of prednisolone, which I take every 2 to 3 days now. I try and do every 3 days, but sometimes it kind of depends what I'm doing. Or also now I take alendronic acid and Thiacal D3, which is to protect my bones from the steroids and any early onset osteoporosis. So I have to kind of work the steroids around that. So it's normally every 3rd day now, but sometimes it's every other day. So I also take 4.5 mil of LDN every day, and I take various vitamins and supplements, which I will list below. And as I've said to people before, one of my most significant things that helps my symptoms is daily walking. I go out for walks maybe 2-3 times a day, and I walk at least, try and walk a minimum of 10,000 steps a day. Normally it's between 10 and 15,000 steps a day, which is about 7 to 10 kilometers, or between about 4 and 6 miles. So that seems to help regulate my symptoms. When people ask me how I'm doing and how things are, I say for me, I'm doing well, which I am doing well. As I said in the previous video with my husband, I'm probably the best I have been in the past 7 years in many ways. And I think it's both a combination of things. I think it's a combination of both knowing how to treat the condition and understanding it and learning how to manage it. But I also think it's been the journey of acceptance, and accepting this is what I need to live with and work with. And it's not going to go away, and it's not suddenly going to get better without a miracle. So I've learned to kind of know how to work with it and how to live with it. And there's lots of things, as I said in a previous blog article, I have to kind of micromanage, and a lot of my day. You know, I have to constantly, all day long, manage my day and my time. I can only concentrate for a certain amount of time. I can only stay in one position for a certain amount of time. I can only sit down for a certain amount of time. And it's all about managing that. So today I wanted to talk about that. How do I, in my unique situation with my unique injury and conditions, manage my daily symptoms, in the hope that it might give some people some ideas as to how they might be able to manage theirs a bit more. So I just wanted to start off talking about what it feels like to have arachnoiditis. Now, it's very complicated because there are so many different things that come into it. And sometimes I don't know what exactly is arachnoiditis, or the mild adhesive arachnoiditis I seem to have, or what is from potentially still a long-term spinal fluid leak, or from kind of somewhat a recovery of a long-term spinal fluid leak and CSF flow issues and problems due to the arachnoiditis. There's a lot we don't know and understand. The last time my leak was seen, which was seen in the cervical ventral spine, was in September 2019. I haven't had any more MRIs from my specialist CSF Leak centre to kind of see how that is. So we're not sure how that is at the moment, but we do know that the arachnoiditis is there. We know that I have kind of mild clumping, the nerves that kind of move into the back and sides of my spinal cord, and that's been how it is since my earliest MRIs, since my accident. People often ask me, how do you know it was the fall that caused the arachnoiditis? And I say, well, firstly, because over the years I've had these flares of symptoms that now I know respond to IV steroids, so they seem to be inflammatory, and they were the symptoms amidst others that I had right from the start. I have then had MRIs read in hindsight from my local hospital, who can now see evidence of arachnoiditis from those earliest MRIs, which were before my spinal procedures, before I had blood patches and CT myelograms and things like that. So we're pretty sure that it was the fall that caused it. How did the fall cause it? That was a question I was asked recently. And one theory is I have had a CT and I have bone spurs throughout kind of up my thoracic spine, kind of micro bone spurs that are sticking into the dura, which holds the spinal fluid. And so it could well be that when I fell, one of those went through into the dura. There could have been blood that got into the dura, and it set off both a leak and this kind of arachnoiditis, this inflammation, which perhaps spread down my spine to now mean I have more lumbar arachnoiditis, and that could have been flared by some of the spinal procedures. But how it feels to have arachnoiditis. Now, I'm sitting here now and I can feel it in my lumbar spine. Now, one of the best ways I describe it is like a pulling sensation. So it feels like someone is pulling my spine up from the bottom. So it's like a pulling like that. And then it feels like someone is pulling my spine down from the top. So it's kind of stuck and pulled. So I get a pulling sensation in my neck, kind of pulling this, and a pulling sensation in my lumbar spine. And then another way to describe the pain, the daily pain, that, as I described it to my husband recently, the burn-in sensation that you get, the burn-in pain inside you, is a bit like a Chinese burn. You know, if someone takes your arm and kind of goes like that with it, you know, you get that kind of burn-in sensation. And it's not burning in the same way as something hot, but it's a burn-in, like when you graze yourself, like a carpet burn. That is the constant sensation I have in my lumbar spine, and actually in my neck as well. But it's flared through things like sitting, any bending of my spine, any stretching of my spine, particularly if I crouch down, that can flare it, although I can do all that a lot more than I used to be able to. I've got more mobility in my spine, but I would say that burning sensation, the nerves, just this pulling and this kind of twisting sensation, it very much feels like my spinal cord is trapped, which it would do if I have adhesive arachnoiditis, which the evidence points to the fact it's probably a mildly adhesive, and it just feels like there's this constant kind of that your spinal cord's stuck. So, you know, you get that sensation down from your head and that kind of pulling, which can be related to spinal CSF leaks and brain sag, but I think it's a slightly different sensation to that. And then the pulling up from the bottom. And your spine often feels very full, very stiff. I've increased mobility in my spine. I am bending a bit more, but it's still just painful and stiff. By later on in the day, by the time I have to lie down, and that at the moment, it can be 10 to 12 hours, but it can be so flared and so burning, you know, and I'm lying down and it takes a long time for that to ease. So that's one of the main symptoms. I then get symptoms down my legs, you know, the pins and needles, the kind of burning, I would say some sciatica, like, and into my feet, and that kind of tingling and burning sensation. I begin to get agitated if I'm sitting in one position. It's hurting now, but I wanted to do this video sitting down. Another issue that I have, and this is building up now as I speak to you, is what I believe is a spinal fluid flow impairment. So the longer I sit here, or the longer I stand in one position, it begins to feel like my spinal fluid is not flowing around my head properly. So either I'm getting kind of more higher pressure symptoms or more lower pressure symptoms. I don't know what it is, or just blockage or whatever. So it begins right now, it's beginning to kind of, the pressure's beginning to increase in my head. Everything's getting a bit more dreamy. If I sit here for too long, I may start to yawn. You know, yawning is another thing. And I looked it up, and people with kind of brain conditions and higher pressure or things like multiple sclerosis and things can have this problem with yawning. And I will yawn and feel really sleepy, and my ears need to pop, and I get very, very agitated. So I'm feeling a bit of that agitation now from sitting down, and I've got a light on me that's irritating me a bit. And that will build up, and eventually I will just have to get up, stand up and walk around. And in fact, I think I'm going to do that right now because it's beginning to build up already, and I think I might continue to do some more of this video standing up. So yeah, my symptoms were building up, so I've decided to stand up, and what I tend to do is in between kind of sitting down or doing something, I will try and move around. So I would maybe just have a walk around like this. And that just means that, I don't know what it is, my spinal fluid seems to flow better, and it helps ease the pain, and standing up is a better position. But equally, if I continue standing in this position, in one position and not moving around, the same thing will happen. The pain will build up in my lumbar spine, it will build up in my neck, and the pressure kind of will go into my head, and things will begin to get difficult. I will begin to feel very sleepy, I might begin to yawn, and then my ears will be very full. And if I kind of then go out and go for a walk, which often I might, my ears all pop, 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 pop as the pressure somehow reduces, I guess. So it seems like the pressure increases and then reduces. So that's one of the things I grapple with. There are definitely many signs that I deal with higher intracranial pressure issues, as well as potentially low ones at times. It's very confusing and very hard to tell the difference. Over my journey, I have experienced both, but I can't always tell you how things are because they get very confused as well by the arachnoiditis and that pain, which often makes me want to lie down, but equally sometimes lying down can give me a headache. At night time, if I wake up, I often have a bad headache. If I lie in bed in the mornings, I often have an increasingly bad headache, and that doesn't improve until I get up, and that can be a sign of higher intracranial pressure. That is normal for me, that's common for me. And also it's well known that people with Tarlov cysts and arachnoiditis, adhesive arachnoiditis, may well have issues with higher intracranial pressure. On that level, it may be if I am still leaking, if I have a slow leak, that the slow leak, I theorise, could kind of act like a kind of a natural shunt. A shunt is what they put in, surgeons might put in to help kind of siphon off some of the fluid if you have high pressure. Now, if you have a leak, then that might be siphoning off enough fluid. Maybe that's another reason why moving around kind of helps regulate my fluid pressure. In which case, some people, if they do have some higher pressure issues, or they have arachnoiditis and are struggling with higher pressure, and then they have the leak fixed, they may have real problems with higher pressure, which could ultimately produce another leak and things like that. So it gets very, very complicated. But it seems that I can kind of self-regulate a lot of my pressure issues through self-management, through walking, through moving around, through lying down when I need to, as long as I don't lie down too much, because then that can cause me headaches and maybe an increase because your pressure is higher when you lie down. So that is definitely an issue for me. So one of the problems this all causes is I really struggle to focus and concentrate for too long. You know, most people work, my husband often works from home, and he can sit and focus all day, you know, doing work on a laptop. For me, I can maybe do half an hour, 40 minutes. I mainly stand kind of using the laptop, or I do it standing on my phone. Occasionally I sit, but I can do even less time before I can no longer concentrate. The pain is too bad, the pressure in my head is too bad, I can't think straight, I get very, very agitated because of the pain and because of the pressure in my head, and just this feeling of just, it's not right, I feel ill, I don't feel well, that I have to often go out for a walk or at least move around and do some housework, which means I move around. That means I do a lot of menial kind of work around the house, or I go out for a lot of walks, which is good because I have a family, and so I can get lots done in the house and kind of order things or go to the shops, and I can carry kind of a bag of shopping at a time. So, you know, that's good that I can get things done. It's better from the days that I was lying in bed a lot. But it's also very restrictive because I can only focus and concentrate for a minimal amount of time. I can go back to it later, but it gets worse often and harder later on in the day. But the good thing about all the time I have walking and moving around and doing housework is I do get a lot of stuff done at home and get a lot organised at home, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, YouTube videos, teachings, do a lot of research on different subjects, both health conditions and other issues, or kind of research because we're involved in pastoral stuff at church, biblical research or teaching, or research on different topics or pastoral issues that we're dealing with. So it's not wasted time. There's a lot of time, and I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy learning, but it's a very different way of doing things. But it enables me to manage things better. That's another reason why I go out for so many walks, because it breaks things up and allows my body a bit more time to kind of find more of an equilibrium and just release some of the tension and the pain that walking helps with. But it does get exhausting. It does get exhausting throughout the day, and often by the evening I have to lie down because I can't relax sitting down, and my back pain is so bad, and you know, just my body is just exhausted and tension, and it's just, I lie down and it's just like, it's both a relief, but it takes a long time for that pain to begin to ease, you know, and get a bit more comfortable. And sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes then I can get headaches when I lie down. So there's lots of complexity to it, but I'm able to do a lot more than I used to be able to do. Before the arachnoiditis diagnosis, I could maybe do 2, possibly 3, sometimes 4 hours upright, you know, at a time before having to lie down for a couple of hours. And that's how it went all day. Sometimes I could only do an hour upright. I've had times that I've been in bed pretty much all day and couldn't be upright for more than 10, 15 minutes. So how I'm living at the moment is a lot better. I can drive, but I can only drive for a maximum of about half an hour because after that time the pressure and the pain builds in my lower spine, in my neck, in my head, and my concentration begins to go. So I know I'm only safe for about half an hour. Driving, I just drive locally, short distances, and try and avoid any fast roads and things like that if I know that I'm not at my highest capacity. So there's a lot I can do, but as I say to people, if I compared myself to normal and I tried to live the life I used to live, I would crash and burn within a few hours. I can't live that life. I can't live a normal life. I couldn't work in the ways that most people work. I'm thankful that the work I do is mainly voluntary and mainly flexible, and I can work that in to keep something going that I can do without the pressure of having to do things in a certain way, because I have to do it in the way that my body can do. So it's restrictive, and yet there's freedom in learning how to manage it. So really my best advice in how to manage the symptoms of arachnoiditis, mild adhesive arachnoiditis, and whether I do still have a leak, or I'm in recovery from a leak, or what that situation is, whether I'm still seeping spinal fluid, whatever the situation is to do with management and balance and an acceptance. I've been through over the years a deep process of grief and having to accept the situation. The arachnoiditis diagnosis has helped me to do that, because I know it's not going away. I have to learn how to live with it and work with it. So that has enabled me to try and find and build a life that is more manageable. But it takes a lot of acceptance that grief sometimes comes back at the things I can't do. If life gets more pressured, I struggle. I'm very, very hypersensitive to stress, anything that increases intracranial pressure, anything that increases kind of that pressure on me. I have to be very careful and try and keep life as balanced and as smooth as possible, so that I have room if things do get hard. And I also have to bring in a lot of rest, you know, particularly in the evening, or through lots of walks in the day. I do have fears and questions for the future. How on earth am I going to move into getting older if I can't sit down? I mean, you see a lot of older people, they need to sit down a lot. They need to sit in a chair a lot. That is not ever comfortable for me. It's not comfortable for me to sit down for 5-10 minutes. I don't sit down most of the time. You know, if we go for a long walk and we're out, I generally don't sit down unless I have to. If I get really, really tired, I might lie down, but that's generally later in the evening, so I don't develop more headaches. So there's fears there. What's this going to look like in the future? I don't know. But for now, what I'm doing is working. I haven't flared for over a year, and I'm learning to manage it, and I'm learning to live with it. And I want to bring hope to others today that things can improve and there can be a way forward. But we have to learn how to accept, how to grieve, and how to find a new way of living within all the restrictions. But thank you for listening to me and following my story and my channel. Please do add any comments or questions below, and I will try and answer those. Please do subscribe, share, follow, and let's get information out about arachnoiditis and how to help people that might have it.